Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Redeem Her Time podcast. I'm Alyssa Figgins, your host, and today I have Claire Boyce with us today. We're going to be having a different, fun conversation that is still going to help us learn some lessons around our time and around faithfulness from a little bit different perspective. We're going to be talking today about consistency over perfection, and we're actually going to be using the context of running. So maybe you're a runner, maybe you're not. So don't, shy away if you're not, because I was not a runner back in the day. But there is something we can learn about discipline and presence and faithful growth as kingdom aligned business owners. And so, yeah, we're going to have a great conversation today. So, Claire, I'm so excited to welcome you to the Redeem Her Time podcast. Tell us about you, like just outside of the work you do. What does life look like in this season? I know you're balancing motherhood, full-time work, running, of course, your faith. What else are you stewarding right now?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. Well, as you just said, I am Claire Boyce. I have a wonderful husband, Stephen, and two kids, Jeremiah and Kezia. We are in the fun preteen and teenage years. Jeremiah just turned 13 in April, and Kezia is 10 going on 16. So
Right? Watch out.
we've got our hands full. Both kids are athletic and in multiple different sports. Kezia was in middle school this year and completed three team sports. So we're very proud of her. And as you can imagine, that was a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, because you're still taxi mom right now, right? Of making sure she
Yes.
gets to all those said things, right? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. But we love it. It's really fun and our days are long, but I just talked to my husband. I'm like, you know what, we're gonna miss these days in about 10 years. So I'm really trying to just cling on, and even if I have to eat at the concession stand, pizza and chips, I mean, it could be
It
worse.
could be worse. Yes, it's so true, right? I think we often think, this time I have so much time, and you're right, it goes by so quick. She will be 16, driving herself quickly, and yeah, each season has its own gifts, and so I think when we can stay present to that, that can be a really beautiful thing. So I love it. I love it. Yeah, and I think I find people who are kind of fast have lots going on. So let's let that be our segue into what you're doing. Tell us about kind of fast and upward running. I know that I was sharing with you, like I was connected to Upward Sports with my kids back in the day. And so I know running is a part of that. So tell us a little bit about what is kind of fast and what is upward running. So we have some context. And then a little bit more about maybe like what led you to bringing together some of these things like running and faith and discipline in a really tangible way that help people stay grounded in the things that matter.
Yeah, definitely. So upward running is, of course, part of upward sports. However, it's different because we are the very first adult program that upward sports has. So traditionally, upward sports is a youth sports organization, and it's really cool that we are the very first adult focused arm of upward sports. And what better way to do that than running?
Right. All
I
you need
know a
is a
lot
pair of shoes, right?
Right, exactly. And I know a lot of people absolutely hate running, but we've had so many people say that and then cross their first 5K finish line and go on to run more races. So we can help you kind of go from the couch to a 5K. So that is upward running. We have a few different models. It's been so encouraging and uplifting to watch people go from I'm not a runner. I will never run unless something's chasing me to, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just did that. It's been such a joy to watch that. Now, part of Upward Running is the Kind of Fast podcast. So I am actually a host on that podcast, and Travis Vaughn is my co-host. I am the kind of not fast part of the podcast. He is the kind of fast part. But I think we do a really good job of blending. We're not pro runners, but we're not true beginner runners. So we have a very unique perspective that we can bring to the running and walking world. So I have finished dead last in a race before, and Travis has literally won a race before. So we do a fun job of kind of blending kind of fast and kind of not with practical tips, tricks, advice, and a faith aspect. So we are a Christian organization, and the faith truly is at our forefront. So it's a fun space to be in the running world with a faith perspective.
Yeah, I mean, talk about like a great, so many great parallels, right? When we think about the journey of life and, running the race and so many things that can come in there and just the perseverance it takes. I was the girl who was told my husband, I will run if someone's chasing me. And I remember one day my husband was in the military, so he was deployed. I remember driving past a 5K sign and was like, you know what? I think I want to do 5K. So I did exactly what you just shared. I didn't have you, but I went and found a Couch to 5K program, got myself out there. I'm the consistent girl. My audience knows this, right? Like when I make time for things that matter and have consistency and discipline. So that was no problem. I dragged my boys on that 5K as well. And I mean, I remember the run we did the week before. I mean, they were like, they couldn't even make it the full 3 miles. They were like, Mom. My one son went on to win his age category. The other one placed really well. Both of them went on to run in high school and go to state. And one of them went on to become a professional triathlete. So they're running circles around me right now, but yeah, it was all because I just decided I was gonna run and then just, stuck with it. So
Love
many
it.
parallels, right, to faith and life and probably what we experience, in the callings that we have, with ministry and business and things like that. So what were you gonna say?
Yes, I'm just so shocked that your boys went on to do really big things with running all from a 5K. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm like, you can thank me later, right? But yeah. Well, okay, whether someone's listening today or not, right? Like it's true that we want to do things well. We want to run our race well, whether it's a literal race, whether it's our, race of life, obviously bringing in our faith and what we're doing. But there's this thing that happens. We always feel behind. I think most of us are probably at the back of the pack, right? We're not like Travis, I think you said his name was, who's out in front.
Hey, I call it a party pace. We're the party
Okay, we're the
pacers.
party pace. But yeah, there is this like I feel behind. Maybe we're inconsistent, we feel like we're failing because life gets full. And so whether it's I didn't have time to get out and run or I didn't have time to, fill in the blank with whatever that is, why do you think that so many women, even in different stages of life, right? Your kids are still under the roof, mine are now gone. Just here to tell you, still struggle with consistency. Why do you think so many women struggle with consistency?
Yeah,
Physically, maybe spiritually, emotionally.
I think because we live in a world where it is go, 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 fast, 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 fast. And we're always thinking about that next thing. Okay, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do now? X, Y, Z. And I think that we, with social media, kind of have a false reality and perspective of what life really does look like. Because as we all know, social media is the highlight reel. And we get caught up in oh, well, I'm not doing this, or let's keep up with the Joneses. And it kind of takes away from what we need to do to stay grounded and consistent because we're just trying to go fast and keep up with others, truly.
Mm. Yeah, and I think when we're doing that, we're missing out on the joy of the journey, right? We're so
Yes.
either focused on the task in front of us that it's like blinders on. All I can see is that next box I have to check. Or what are we doing? Like you just said, we're comparing ourselves to everybody else's race. And I always say,
Right.
like, as long as you're looking for what you don't think you have, you're missing out on exactly what's in front of you. And I think that's
Exactly.
so true with our time, right? Like, I tell people when if you keep looking for the time you don't think you have, you are missing this opportunity of the gift of time that's actually in front of you.
Yes, you are so right. And I think that women nowadays and men too, we're carrying far more than what we were ever meant to carry alone. That's why I think it's so important to have a relationship with Jesus Christ so we don't have to carry that alone. But it's not just physically either. It's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, logistically. Like us as women, we spend our days generally pouring out for so many people in our life that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And then the inconsistency, it's not really about laziness per se. It's more about exhaustion at that point.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Putting everyone and everything else right, on the calendar or out in front,
Yes.
and then we're kind of waiting for the leftover time, which we know doesn't usually doesn't show up, right? So
Yeah.
the other word we talked about in the beginning, we talked about consistency, and we when we introed this, we just talked about perfection, right? So like I think this is another thing that we run into that can definitely impact the consistency, aspect and as well, is that this idea of like I have to always do it right and well, and I have to be fast, and or I have to be up in the front pack, or whatever that looks like. How do you see, as you're thinking about maybe the work that you're doing with people who are running, or even just in your own life, like how does perfectionism keep us from from that consistency that we really want, and from being able to make it like be okay with what this looks like in the season of life that we're in instead of what we
Yes.
think it needs to look like.
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. I have struggled with perfectionism my entire life. It is so hard for me to kind of try to break the perfectionism curse, as I'm going to call it right now. But I feel like women and myself included feel like if we can't do something fully and perfectly
Mm,
and consistently, then we've failed. And
mm.
nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to be considered a failure. Oh, I didn't do this. So instead of that small, fateful step over and over, a lot of us just kind of quit altogether from that perfectionism. And that is a standard that feels completely impossible. So it's been so key in my life to kind of unplug and be like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I come last again in a race. It doesn't matter if my pace is slow as it relates to running. It doesn't matter if I don't have the newest, latest, and greatest shoes. What matters is that I am showing up for myself to make myself better, and then I will be a better wife, mom, Christian. I'll just be better all around. I think that is what a lot of people miss out on.
I think we want, and yes, I think we want like the instant, I'm at this level of, where I want to be, forgetting that you don't go
Yes.
from like 0 to 60 overnight. That there's
Right.
this compounded change that happens over time when we are consistently giving something time. So let's put it in the running context, right? Like probably the first time you put on a pair of shoes and ran. I remember watching my one son when he was in junior high. Sorry, I know he doesn't listen to my podcast, so I'm not going to say anything too embarrassing, but like it was hard to watch because he was so lanky and he had such big feet. I mean, when he ran, it was awkward, and he was at the back in junior high track. And I remember watching and sitting there going, "Oh my goodness." And then to watch him develop and like to see him then become a leader. He wasn't like, the top person in high school, but they still went to state, and he was a leader for them. And I saw that growth over time, not just in his running, but who he was. And I think that sometimes we want to short circuit the journey part, like the who we are becoming, and we just want to get to the finish line. We just want to get to
Yep.
like, the end result, and remembering like, yeah, you get to the finish line with every step that you take from the start line until you get there, right?
Yes, 100%. I love the way you put that. And I feel like, again, we live in a society and a world where we're constantly surrounded by the noise and the social media, and we don't get to see other people's journeys. We see them go from A to Z really fast in one Instagram post, but we didn't see the everything in between there. So it's really important to kind of stay out of that comparison trap too, which is hard.
It is. It is. Yeah. And even the expectations we have of ourselves. I think even if we were
Yes.
to block out everyone else, don't we tend to, I should be further than I am. I should be faster than I am. I should be fill in the blank. And then we're holding, yeah, ourselves back from, that growth journey and being just okay with where we are in that place and
Yeah.
continuing on, right? So I love
Yes.
that you're like talking about you're showing up faithfully instead of perfectly, and we want to have consistency. I mean, talk about such a great, tangible example in running, because you have to go out and, run. And if you want to not be winded at the end, not just to win a race, but if you want to actually feel good and get the health benefits, you want to be consistent. So let's use that as an example. Like, what are some simple rhythms or habits that maybe help you stay grounded, or as you're working with people through what you're doing? Because life is busy. Let's be honest. Nobody has time to go run, right? Or time for fill in the blank. So, yeah, what are some practical ways that you're helping people walk that out consistently so they can experience the journey and see the growth?
Yeah, so one key word here is going to be motivation as well. We all know we're not going to be motivated 100% of the time. We're just not. It's not realistic. And one of the best tools that I found to teach people is the 10-minute rule. You can do anything for 10 minutes. Put your shoes on, go outside, get that run in. And if you're not running, you can apply this anywhere else. Just promise yourself, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. You know what? 9 out of 10 times, you're going to keep going after the 10 minutes because it's the motivation to really get you out of the door that is stopping you. So I love the 10-minute rule. Another tool that I like to use is I schedule my time out in my phone. If I have a meeting scheduled with my boss, I'm not going to miss it. So
Mm.
why would I miss a meeting with myself to show up for myself? So those are the two key things that I think could help so many people. As it relates to running too, it's important to know that movement isn't punishment. I know that uh, in sports and in school growing up, running was always a punishment. Try not to look at it as punishment, and that helps too.
That's so funny. Like I forgot about that, right? The kid that got in trouble had to run laps around the gym, around the track,
Yes.
and it actually
Oh
could
yeah.
be a really good thing. I love that. Okay, I love what you just talked about. Okay, because you talked about like some time running is better than no time. That's one of the things that I took out of your
Yes.
10-minute, right? Like, and so often I mean, whether it's running, whether it's a project in our business, something we want to move forward in a ministry, it feels like this giant thing. And how often do we then put it
Yes.
off? Because if I can't give it, X number of minutes or hours, it's not even worth starting. And I love that reminder of just get out and do something. And chances are it will grow into more than that. And if it doesn't, it's okay. At least you got 10 minutes in of that and you got some healthy movement. So that reminds me, so often I'll talk about the 2-minute rule. Like, hey, give it 2 minutes and it'll turn into more. One of the other rules that I then flip around is I call it the 2-day rule. So if you want to do something every day and say you miss a day, right? Because I'm sure this happens when you're coaching people through running stuff, right? Like,
Yes.
even if they have a plan, they have it on their calendar, life happens, it doesn't happen. So in my 2-day rule, I say, okay, as it, like your goal is, to do whatever the consistency is. So whether it's daily or, 2 times in a row kind of is the thing. So if you miss one, it's okay. Give yourself grace. And then just decide it's not going to be 2 in a row. Because once you miss that appointment 2 days in a row, it's really easy to just you're building momentum away from that goal or that priority that you had put out in front of them. And so, yeah, so I love that. Like put it on your calendar because if we don't make time for it, it's not going to happen. But then
Right.
when it doesn't happen, pay attention and say, what can I do to make sure that I don't do this 2 times in a row? So that way we can get back in the trajectory that we want to go, right?
I love that.
Yeah. I think we just need those simple little, like we overcomplicate things. We think it has to be
Yes, we
so
really
hard.
do.
We're talking about 10 minutes or 2 minutes, right? And just one day at a time and not letting it be missing 2 times in a row. So super, super simple. So I'd love to hear more just from your own journey. Like what has running personally taught you? Like when you think about, your faith, discipline, endurance, moving forward when you don't feel motivation. I'm sure you've had those days.
I've probably had more of those days than I would like to count, but you know what? That is just reality. But running has truly saved my life in multiple ways. So, running is where I do a lot of my prayer time because what else am I going to do when I'm out there running for 19 miles? Like, it's a really great time to spend one on one with the Lord. It's also taught me again that motivation is not always reliable. Some days I feel really strong and ready. Some days I feel energized and confident and ready to go. But other days, my legs are just heavy before I even head out of the door. And my mind starts saying, oh, you don't have to do this, Claire. You don't have to do this, Claire. But sometimes it's raining and it's not ideal weather to go run in. But yet, growth really comes from continuing anyway. So, running has taught me to keep going through the hard and through the tough because there will be a good day eventually. It might not be that day, but a good day in running and in life is coming. So, keep going, keep pushing through, even when you don't want to.
I love that. I was actually just having a conversation with my clients yesterday, because we have a lot of those days where we feel like it's raining. I don't really want to go out, right? Or we have that same feeling about our business or our ministry, whatever it is that, God's calling us to move forward. And we're reading a book together. And so we are just both reminded of this illustration that was given about it was actually a swimmer and he wanted to quit. And his dad said, just don't quit on a bad day. And so he just kept going. And I'm thinking, like, what great advice. And so this client had had a really bad day, and she was like, I feel like burning the thing down. And she's like, but I'm not going to quit on a bad day. Next day woke up, and yeah, the day felt so different. And she knew this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I love that reminder that even if it's rainy or cold or windy, or you just don't feel like it, like, okay, how can we follow through on that commitment?
Yes.
And, oftentimes, yeah, we will then be energized as we go, and not quit on a bad day. So Such
I
important
love that.
lessons for us, right? In life, in business, in ministry, and all the things, because the enemy would love to keep us, from the things that God's putting in front of us to run after. And we're not going to let him do that.
No, and I like that pun there. Pun intended. Run after
Right?
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's connect this back to time stewardship because that's what we talk about here. We're always looking at not just, what are you spending time on, but also what's the return on that time. I think that is really, really key, right? We're not going to be giving time to something that has no return, at least we shouldn't be. So how does building consistent rhythms, whether it's around running or whether it's, in some area of our life or business, how will it help us to not only move things forward, but to actually enjoy the journey a little bit more, to have more of that peace and clarity, and probably feel that momentum building over time.
Yeah, so as it relates to running, you are doing hard things. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, but everyone's not doing it. So it's the sense of accomplishment and the grit and the perseverance that you're having to put through. Truly is life changing. So it is well worth the time invested. And that's just from a kind of mental perspective. There's also a lot of physical benefits too. Clarity in your mind. A lot of the time, we have people go out and run and they come up with some of the best ideas they have had because they're in a space where they can kind of think clearly and through things that they might not otherwise have had the time to do before. So decisions, big decisions. I know Travis, my co-host, he calls me all the time. He's like, Claire, I've got a really good idea. And so it's a genius idea. So it really has so many benefits. And then obviously it's going to help your cardiovascular system. Who doesn't want that?
Right?
So the time invested is truly worth it for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, I love that. I do. Like you get the best ideas when you're not sitting in front of your computer screen or you're not sitting in front with your notebook. I find it's when I'm on a walk or a run or when I'm washing dishes, and I'm otherwise my hands are something part of my body is occupied. And I think that's when, yeah, we're able just to kind of get into some of those creative spaces. And I love how God can use that. In fact, my CEOs this summer were reading a book about walking as a spiritual practice and using that. So I love that you use running as a spiritual practice, a time to pray. I love, listening to worship music when I'm running or walking or, depending on what my pace is.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll leave somebody a long voice memo or something like that and just, yeah, kind of use that time in those healthy ways. And it's about who you become, right, in the journey. And that's what I love about just the race of life, actually physically running a race, being a business owner, we are not the same person when we keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I love that there are people like you that are helping to inspire us to do that in lots of different ways. So good. Well, this conversation is such a good reminder, right? That it does come one step at a time. It doesn't come from being perfect, but it does come from being consistent and faithfully showing up and doing all of that. So as we're ending, right? And I'm thinking our listeners are like, okay, give me a nugget, Claire. Like, what's one simple, either a small rhythm or a step that you would encourage a listener to start this week? Whether it's directly related to running or, something that can be a parallel into their business that will help them to put that consistency over perfection.
Yeah, I am going to encourage and challenge everyone to try the 10-minute rule with something in your life this week or today, whatever that is. It could be running, it could be walking, it could be coming up with a business plan, whatever it is. Try it for at least 10 minutes and enjoy the journey that will come through that 10 minutes.
I love it. I love it. Yay. And 10 minutes will often turn into more. So we'll put that challenge out there. In fact, I always invite my audience to come continue the conversation inside of our community where we can talk more about how we're living out what we're hearing on the podcast. And so that's going to be our question is what are you going to give 10 minutes to? And then we want to hear when you do 10 minutes of that, like what was the roadie? What was the result? What, like maybe it was just 10 minutes and then you just felt really good about I did 10 minutes, or maybe that 10 minutes turned into more, or maybe that 10 minutes, gave you some other opportunity that wasn't already there. So that'll be a
Yeah.
fun little challenge for us. So thank you for giving that to us. We'll make sure that we link to the community in the show notes. And if you're not a member, you can just go to redeemhertime.com/community. And I know that Claire, you've got a little fun gift for us today through the Upward Running app, a 3-week trial. Tell us a little bit about like who is this designed for? How will it help us build consistency, and other things in a life-giving way?
Yes, so I do want to offer your community a free 3 week trial for the Upward Running app, which is really cool. We typically don't do anything over 2 weeks, so I wanted to offer you something really exciting. This code is Redeem Her Time, and you can go to the website that will be in the show notes,
Mhm.
I'm guessing.
Yes, we will.
And yes, and that will get you access to all of our training plans. You can kind of see what we've got going on there. All of our devotions. We have weekly devotions. We have a weekly devotion audio. We have Bible in the Year audio. And this is really for anybody who wants to get moving, whether it's running or walking. We also have walking plans. So I encourage you to go give it a try, and maybe you can spend your 10 minutes trying something new.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. We'll make sure we link to that running app and the way you guys can get the 3 free weeks down in the show notes. And what a great way for us to like actually start practically, right, putting one foot in front of the other and seeing what happens when we are consistent and not expecting ourselves to be perfect, and really start growing in this way. So thank you for your generosity in that. I love that. And thanks for sharing your story and your passion today. I know this conversation is going to encourage and inspire a lot of women who want to, they're in really full seasons of life. And we don't want to fall to that pressure or perfectionism and the comparison that we talked about today. So, in closing, I always love to ask my guests one of my signature questions, which is, what is it time for? So, this episode is coming out, in early July. So, we're kind of right in the middle of summer. And yeah, how would you answer this question? What is it time for in this season of your life or the work that you're doing? And why do you want to see a good return on that time?
Yeah, so right now it is time for getting, I'm going to relate it back to running because obviously I have to right now. I am going to dedicate time towards a half marathon PR to hopefully eventually point me to running a Boston qualifying time. And that'll be well worth the time invested because I will have a lot of clarity and hopefully one day run the Boston Marathon.
Wow, what a fun goal. And I just want to say before we end, I was just thinking about this as you were talking. You've walked us through what we talk about here on the podcast so often. We have to make a decision that we're going to do something, right? You've committed to this, I want to do this goal. Then you get a plan, right? Okay, what am I going to do, right? And probably breaking it down week by week and then even day by day, right? And then you're making time for it. And you've probably got some kind of accountability around it so that you'll keep moving towards that goal. And, it may happen in the time frame you think, and it may take longer, it may be faster, but that's how the growth happens. So we're cheering you, Claire, across that finish line as you're working towards that this summer and then as you're heading to Boston. So yeah, make sure you pop in the community too and keep us posted on your running journey. And yeah, we'll have a great conversation over there about our 10 minutes. So well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for being with us today. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you so much.